We are live.
Out and talking to Molly and talking to Marshall and
If
talking to
whoever has their phone on, please mute. Trying to. Okay, thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone. So we will now call the meeting to order of the San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern Board meeting to order. Today, with the invocation, will be by our Director Lombard from Tustin, and followed by Pledge of Allegiance from Director Chafee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please bow your heads with me. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve the great citizens of Orange County. We ask that you provide us with your wisdom today as we approach the issues presented to us for deliberation. Please guide us to good decisions that benefit our communities. We pray that you bless our organization, our boards, TCA staff, and our many customers. We ask that you protect those who work to keep our roadways operating and safe, and to please always protect our first responders and emergency personnel. In your name we pray. Amen.
Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our Director Chafee. Supervisor Chafee, are you there? He may be on mute.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay.
Were you asking me to lead the pledge?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Pardon me. Please all rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. Please remember the freedoms that we all enjoy and the sacrifices that are made to achieve those freedoms. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lombard and Director Chafee. Next, we have roll call. Madam Clerk?
Chair Will O'Neill,
Here.
Vice Chair Heft, Director Connors,
here.
Director Hurt,
Here.
Director Minigar,
Present.
Director Reynolds,
Here.
Director Vic Sorick,
Here.
Chair Wong,
Here.
Vice Chair Miller,
Here.
Director Beal,
Here.
Director Chafee,
Present.
Director Lombard,
Here.
Director Murphy,
Here.
Director Trevor O'Neill,
Here.
Director Voights,
Here.
Director Bartlett,
Here.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Kahn,
Here.
Director Penaloza,
Here.
Director Taylor,
Here.
Director Wagner,
Here.
Director Chamberlain,
Here.
Vice Chair Heft.
I'm here.
Madam Chair, we have quorum on both boards.
Thank you. Now is the time for the public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any written public comments that were received?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. At this time during live public broadcasting, members of the public may address the Joint Boards of Directors regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Joint Boards of Directors, but no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Written public comments received in advance of the meeting will be distributed to the directors. Live public comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person unless the chair, subject to the approval of the boards of directors, set different time limits. Madam Chair, we did receive 2 written public comments that were sent to the directors, and we do have 2 live public commenters.
Okay, so let's start first with the live commenters, and then we will follow by the written. Okay, who's our first speaker?
Good morning. Please clearly state your name and begin your public comment.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please clearly state your name and begin your public comment.
Good morning. My name is Dan Silver. Chair O'Neill and Huang. I'm Dan Silver of Endangered Habitats Council commenting on consent item number 9. I'm also representing the 12 groups of the Save San Onofre Coalition. We greatly value the partnership we have developed with your agency over the years and look forward to the future. The coalition strongly supports the amendment to the settlement agreement. The amendment is appropriately limited and narrow in scope, addressing the only relevant issue. There is no point in otherwise opening up the agreement. The amendment is thoughtful and careful. The result is beneficial to all parties. In view of correspondence received, I would like to stress one point. The settlement agreement should be about advancing the interest of your agency, the TCA. It should not be used as a vehicle to advance the agenda of any other agency. We once again thank you very much for your partnership and urge you to adopt this amendment today without delay. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, we only had one live public commenter after all.
Thank you. All right. With that, we will ask our CEO if he wants to make any comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Per your established procedures, I think we can ask the clerk to identify who the written public comments came from and share those, and you are not required to read those since we've already distributed them to all the directors.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Yes, thank you, CEO Johnson. The first public comment we received was from Keith Schulner. The second public comment we received was from Kia Mortafi, from OCTA.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you have any further comments?
No, I don't, Madam.
Okay.
No, I don't, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. And as with previous meetings, I ask the directors participating via Zoom to raise their Zoom hand if they have any questions or comments regarding any of the items today. Those participating via teleconference can press *9 to raise your hand. If you have technical difficulty, please text the clerk and they will let me know. I know we have a few directors planning to attend the Medal of Valor ceremony this morning, so we will want to be efficient with our time as we do have some timely contract-related items on our business calendar this morning. So with that, we will start with our San Joaquin consent calendar. Do we have any public commenters, live public commenters specific to the San Joaquin Hills consent calendar items?
There are no live public commenters.
Okay, thank you. Are there any directors from San Joaquin Hills who wish to pull any item for discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Director Bartlett.
Okay. It says press 0 to speak. I don't know, there's nothing.
There is a green flag in front of you
that's
that
what-
you can raise.
Oh, that's what this is for. Okay.
High tech.
Okay, I just broke my flag, so sorry.
It's all good.
Okay, well, okay, it's raised. I will need to not participate in item number 11 on the agenda today due to Levine Act.
Thank you. Director Reynolds.
Yes, I just had a question actually about the public comments. Could we get clarification on when we received the written public comments? I didn't see those and wanted to make sure I have them.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, can you confirm when the public comments were emailed out to the directors?
Yes, they were sent out via the calendar invite, 7 a.m. this morning.
I see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I would request that you handle the rest of the consent calendar and actually just pull item number 11, because when you vote on that item, I'll need to step out from the dais. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for helping us make that notation. So with that, item pull, any other items? I don't see any other hands. I will ask for a motion for the consent calendar, items 1 through 5 and 7 through 8. And we
I
will-
move the consent calendar. This is Director Connors.
Thank you,
Trish
Director
Kelly
Connors.
seconds.
All right, second by Director Kelly. So please vote. Oh. You can stay for this item.
Chair Will O'Neill,
Yes.
Vice Chair Heft,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes?
Director Connors,
Yes.
Director Hurt,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Minigar, Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Vic Sorick,
Aye.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
Director Minigar. You may be on mute. Madam Chair, noting the absence of Director Minigar, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you. And then moving on to item 11, Director Bartlett will be leaving the room. Okay. And as to item 11, can I have a motion for this item?
Trish Kelly moves it.
Okay, Director Kelly.
Connors will second.
And second by Director Connors. Please take roll call vote, please.
Chair Will O'Neill,
Aye.
Vice Chair Heft,
Aye.
Director Bartlett, Director Connors,
Aye.
Director Hurt,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Minigar,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Vic Sorick,
Aye.
Director Wagner.
Aye.
Madam Chair, noting the recusal of Director Bartlett, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you. And moving on to Foothill Eastern consent items 1 through 4, 6 through 11. Do we have any public commenters on this item?
There are no live public commenters.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any directors who wish to pull any items? Director Bartlett, I assume item 11 as well.
Item 11 as well for a separate vote. I'll need to recuse or not participate in that item due to Levine Act conflict.
Okay.
And then I'd like to pull item number 9 on Foothill Eastern. Thank you.
Okay, so we will pull number 9, and we will also pull 11 for a separate vote. So why don't we take care of the consent calendars for items 1 through 4, 6 through 8, and number 10? Can I have a motion?
Move the consent calendar.
All right,
Murphy.
moved
I will
by
second it
Director
from the floor.
Murphy, seconded by Director Voigt. Please take roll vote. Roll vote. Thank you.
Chair Wong,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Aye.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Aye.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Lombard,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the item passes unanimously.
And I'm going to move on to item number 11 and ask Director Bartlett to leave the room. Thank you. And if I can have a motion on item number 11 on the consent calendar?
Murphy, move it.
Trish Kelly seconds.
Moved by Director Murphy, seconded by Director Kelly. Please take a roll call vote.
Chair Wong,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Aye.
Director Beal,
Aye.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Lombard,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigts,
Yes.
Director Wagner. Director Wagner, you may be on mute.
Not voting.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Director Wagner, we did miss your vote. Could you please repeat it for us?
I'm not voting on the item.
Oh, he's not.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, noticing the absence of Director Wagner and the recusal of Director Bartlett, the item passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 9, I believe, or Samuel.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think it would be helpful for item 9 if staff went ahead and did a presentation for you to make sure all the board members are clear to help support you in your deliberations.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. And who will be our staff member starting?
So with that, Madam Chair, I'll just share a few brief comments, and then I'd like General Counsel to share some comments, and then we will ask Deputy CEO, Ms. Valerie McFall, to do a staff presentation. Okay? Just so the directors are aware, the item before you is amendments to your settlement agreement with the Environmental Coalition that resolved a lot of the litigation in the past. So Ms. McFall and our General Counsel, Ben Rubin, will cover that in more detail. But I wanted you to give you just a high-level flavor of what staff was working on. So we really focused on our ongoing obligations from the agreement, which are extremely limited. Those are really focused around a couple of key areas. And we also wanted to make sure we avoided crossing over into any of the ongoing litigation. So in terms of the ongoing obligations, the most significant and most relevant one is your conservation fund that you agreed to establish. And we've taken that action as part of this year's budget to set that money aside. So what staff has been working on was making sure that this board had flexibility in how you utilize those funds to align with your strategic plan. You still have various capital projects that are moving forward that may need mitigation acquisitions. And I anticipated that one of the first questions you would ask if staff brought to you a item that recommended we pursue buying additional mitigation to support your projects, that you would naturally ask staff, well, can we use the conservation fund for that? So we wanted to make sure you had that flexibility to be able to consider that. I'm not saying it's an automatic, but we thought it was important the board have flexibility in doing that. Another aspect of your strategic plan we were working to align with is your environmental stewardship. You've given staff direction to continue the high watermark you have for your environmental program, so we wanted to support that. And then there's a third aspect that Ms. McFall will also cover that speaks to our ability to support regional partnerships. You directed us to leave that in your strategic plan, so there's an aspect there with mitigation credits that we've incorporated to address that. So those are the key high-level points I just wanted to share before we hand it off to General Counsel and Ms. McFall.
Just to add a couple of things to that, I was tasked with drafting amendments that are, one, avoid anything that was at issue in the litigation, make sure there, because that is ongoing, there are fee issues, so we want to make sure we don't do anything there. And second, make sure that we have as much flexibility as possible for the agency so that it can do everything that it wants to do as set forth in its strategic plan.
So, Ms. McFall, if you can provide the presentation, and again, directors, and I forgot to mention this, we did not try and go back through the document and capture history. Of course, it's been several years since this document was executed and approved by the boards, so we focused, again, on the ongoing obligations. And as you heard from your public commenter earlier, Dan Silver, who represents the environmental group, they're all on board with the amendments here. So, Ms. McFall.
Sure. Good morning, Chair Wong and members of the board. I'm Valerie McFall, your Deputy CEO of the agencies. The item before you today on the consent calendar is an amendment to the 2016 settlement agreement. As many of you recall that were here, parties included the Foothill Eastern Agency, the California Attorney General, 2 state agencies, and also a group of environmental organizations known as the Save San Onofre Coalition. The settlement agreement resolved over a decade of litigation against the TCAs. Part of the agreement included that TCA create a habitat conservation fund in the amount of $28 million. those dollars were to, for the primary purpose of preserving and restoring the San Mateo Creek and its watershed. The Conservation Fund would be administered by the Foothill Eastern Agency, and the conservation measures would be agreed upon by the Foothill Eastern Agency and the Save San Onofre Coalition. The terms of the current settlement agreement prevent the Foothill Eastern from selling or banking any of the mitigation credits established with the $28 million, and also prohibits the agency from using those mitigation credits for any of its other projects. Knowing that the agency has projects within its capital improvement plan over the next several years, including the 24191 Express Connector and the Loma project, staff thought it was prudent to make sure that the agency could use the $28 million as credit for its existing capital improvement program projects. The amendments provide the agency the flexibility to use these dollars for those projects, and should the agency decide not to pursue any of its projects, these amendments provide the agency additional flexibility in that it could sell those credits to other parties, including other agencies, or even the San Joaquin Hills Agency to support its capital improvement projects. The primary purpose of the $28 million is to purchase and acquire prime habitat within the San Mateo watershed, although these amendments would also open up possibilities to look at other areas outside the watershed. Over the past number of years, we have been working with the Environmental Coalition on many matters related to the settlement agreement and other environmental opportunities. We have since engaged in discussions and sought these amendments to benefit not only the Environmental Coalition, but also the TCAs. The amendments that are before you today are in alignment with the board's recently adopted strategic plan, as CEO Johnson pointed out. It does align with the stewardship pillars that are included in the strategic plan and would also build on the agency's innovative and successful legacy in safeguarding Orange County's natural environment. The settlement agreement only amends Section 3 of the agreement. It does not address the other sections as they were not pertinent to the amendments that were sought. As mentioned in the staff report, it was not needed to obtain the other parties' agreements. The California Attorney General, the Native American Heritage Commission, and the California State Park and Recreation Commission, who are parties to the settlement agreement and the final judgment, have stated that they are not governed or have obligations under Section 3 of the Habitat Conservation Fund. Therefore, their approval was not necessary for the proposed amendments. At this time, all of the parties of the Save San Onofre Coalition have executed the First Amendment to the settlement agreement, and the board is, the staff is asking the board today to sign the settlement amendment to give the board additional flexibility in how it uses the $28 million conservation fund to support its capital projects. That there are no other sections in the settlement agreement that need updating at this time. At this time, I would wrap up my presentation and be prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Again, this settlement agreement only addresses Section 3 of the Habitat Conservation Fund. And Madam Chair, that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Anything further from you, Mr. Johnson?
No, Madam Chair, and Ms. McFall and General Counsel Ben Rubin are prepared to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay. Do we have any questions from directors? I'm like scanning the room. Okay. Any directors on our Zoom call? Okay. Oh, okay. All right, Director Bartlett.
All right, so I pulled this item because it's a $28 million item. It took years to negotiate this before, and it was kind of thrown on by staff to the consent calendar. A $28 million item really should never be on the consent calendar. This is about process. It's about openness and transparency in government. This is not the way our agency should be conducting business. And then taking a look at some of the specific items in the agreement, And it doesn't have to do with the $28 million to the environmental groups, because I know they're going to do great things when they receive the funds. But again, this goes to process and openness and transparency in government. This was not a board-directed item to staff. Staff initiated this on its own. As I understand, the environmental groups didn't even initiate this. So TCA staff took it upon itself to initiate this particular item. But within the agreement itself, you're addressing certain things that pertain to the mitigation credits with the environmental groups, and that's fine. But when you take a look at the other substantive areas within the agreement, that's where we have some conflicts with what the board action has taken relative to Master Plan of Arterial Highways and the 3 projects for South County. So you've got some inherent conflicts there that are not even addressed, and the board has not had an opportunity to opine on those sections of the agreement. If you're going to put forth an amendment, have it be correct from start to finish, and the board has not had an opportunity to do so. So some of the areas of concern have to do not with the mitigation or conservation measures in and of itself, but when you take a look at some of the other terms that are embodied within the basic agreement and or the amendment, you look at sections pertaining to the South County traffic relief effort, which is really concluded at this point. And so that needs to be addressed. The settlement agreement should also recognize the fact that Los Patrones Parkway is included in the Master Plan of Arterial Highways as a county primary arterial, as an untolled arterial. And yet the proposed amendment to the settlement agreement does not reflect the status of that in the Master Plan of Arterial Highways, but also includes language that TCA would collect tolls on Los Patrones Parkway, which is contrary to what the board's actions have previously been. It also talks about the fact that TCA shall not commence construction of the Oso Bridge project. Well, that project is already finished. It was a county project, and it's opened. So those are just some of the items. And then when you take a look at the long-range transportation plan as well, there are certain components of that pertaining to the Master Plan of Arterial Highways, the 3 projects that the board has agreed would be moving forward for regional mobility enhancements in South County. So there are just a lot of inconsistencies and some factual things that are just not correct within the base agreement and should be updated if we're going to have any amendment to the agreement, because it should reflect the board's actions from prior meetings, and it does not. So when you talk about openness and transparency in government, that's where we did not have an opportunity as a full board to really vet these items and make those corrections and substantive changes. And I appreciate, what staff's done relative to the environmental side of things, and I don't think anyone has questions relative to the environmental groups and putting the good use of that $28 million. But you've got to have an agreement that reflects the prior board's actions, and the base agreement and the amendment in particular does not. And there's an updated version, I guess, of that draft agreement that the board hasn't even seen, that someone had sent over. So I think that we need to probably postpone this item right now, and I would be requesting, for all of those reasons, that we have a better opportunity to vet and correct these items and make sure the board is fully engaged and on board with the changes within the amendment, because they are not reflected of prior board actions. Again, it goes to process, openness, and transparency in government, and we really don't have that at this point. So I would highly recommend at this point that we delete the item, we continue it until it can be continued to a time certain, but let everyone have the opportunity to fully weigh in and make sure that whatever is brought forth to the board for approval is consistent with the prior board's actions for openness and transparency in government. Thank you, and I'd love to hear from my other colleagues on this item.
And is that your motion?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Miller, I'll second that, and I'll reserve my comments. Guys, saw Director Beal's hand was up before mine.
Okay, thank you. All right, CEO Johnson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't know if you wanted me to address some of the comments as they're made or move on. I think there was one significant comment we wanted to make clear, in that this is not a $28 million item. The board had already agreed to the $28 million as part of the settlement agreement, and as part of this current year's fiscal budget, you already agreed to put that in a pot the set aside, so it's clearly identified in your budget. So staff is not recommending any types of expenditures. So this is a zero-cost item. All staff is bringing you is an amendment to give you flexibility on how you choose to use that $28 million in the future. So in terms of being staff-driven, I thought it was the board's expectation that we try and deliver your strategic plan. You adopted it, you told us to move forward, and we're working to implement it. So we do bring things to the board so that the public can see what the board is discussing, and you can have deliberations on that. Mr. Rubin can respond to those items that may have been identified as inherent conflicts. I don't believe there are any because I don't think we have ongoing obligations in those other areas. And if the board wants to take time to deliberate, incorporating history into this agreement, we can. I don't think that's the most beneficial use of staff's time, but if that's what you want us to do, we can. And then just lastly, I'm not sure what the updated document is that was referred to, but staff is not aware of any updated document other than what's been attached to your agenda item.
Okay, thank you. So I have hands raised here, but I do want to ask our legal counsel to address some of the concerns that was raised by Director Bartlett. Specifically, if we were to take Director Bartlett's suggestions, would that require us to reopen negotiation with all the parties or signatories to this settlement? And then before you answer that, I'll just let everybody know that the order of hands raised that I will call on, it will be Director Beal, followed by Miller, Wagner, Murphy, and then Chafee. So we'll start first with our legal counsel. Mr. Rubin?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it would, actually. The reason why we're able to only rely on signatures from the environmental groups and us is because Section 3 has no obligations with any other parties. Under the terms of the agreement, if we touch any other section in which they have obligations or rights, then we need all the other parties to sign on. So that's why we were able to proceed with just the environmental groups and us. The other thing, again, that my concern with going into the other sections is because of the ongoing litigation, again, you start touching those, you potentially raise issues that don't exist in the current litigation where we've prevailed both against the reserve and the city. So I would be hesitant to do that. As far as inconsistencies, we're not ratifying the agreement by way of the amendments. We're amending the agreement to just focus on the conservation portion and providing more flexibility. And just with that, to reinforce what the CEO said, we're not actually handing the funds to the environmental groups. What happens is there's a pot, and the environmental groups and the TCA board need to agree on what happens with the money. So this just gives us the flexibility to look San Mateo Creek watershed and potentially beyond if there's nothing feasible there, as well as create a mitigation bank and recoup as much of that $28 million as possible if we don't end up using it as part of our mitigation for our projects.
Thank you. Director Beal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some of my questions have just been addressed by what was just discussed. I'd start off by saying I just completely disagree with Director Bartlett's proposal. I think it's crystal clear that the very limited scope of what is before us for approval today in this amendment is very beneficial to our agency. There is zero downside to it. It gives us greater flexibility. It gives us greater certainty. And it's not a $28 million obligation that we are somehow taking on. It's a zero cost item to our agency. One of the questions I was going to ask was, is it necessary to go line by line through the entire settlement agreement to recite history that has occurred since then? And we just heard from our legal counsel, no, it's not necessary to do so. It could be disadvantaged. It could be a negative for this agency to try and do so because we do have ongoing litigation, and it would not be to our benefit to try and for the sake of clarity, do so. And it would also be very burdensome because under the structure of the existing settlement agreement, to amend the agreement, if we were to go through the entire agreement, then each and every party that was a party to the original settlement agreement would have to be involved in the negotiations. They would have to review and approve it and sign. Because we are dealing today with only a very limited scope, we have 12 parties that have already signed, all the environmental groups. We heard from our public speaker, Dan Silver from the Endangered Habitat League, urging us to approve this because it's great for the environment. They're all happy with it. The TCA is the only party that hasn't signed. All this work to negotiate what's before us today has already occurred with the parties that are impacted by this, and everyone has approved it except us. So to do what Director Bartlett is suggesting would require us going back to the drawing board and amending and restating, if you will, the entire agreement to bring it to today. And that isn't necessary because we aren't changing any of those obligations. I will say that I bristled quite a bit to hear that the suggestion was made that we need to revise it in the name of openness and transparency and good government, because I remember just a few months ago, the County of Orange approved an ill-conceived co-op agreement, but expressly excluded necessary stakeholders from participation in those negotiations, including my city, the city of San Juan Capistrano. There was nothing transparent in that process. But I'll just conclude at this time to say it's not necessary to revisit the entire agreement. It's highly beneficial to the TCA. Everyone's already approved it, and I'm ready to approve it today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director Beal. Director Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I saw this, and I'm just going to preface it with, I really do appreciate what staff did on this. I think what we're doing with the Environmental Mitigation Fund is very creative, and that's what we've asked them to be, is creative if they start thinking outside the box. My issue with this, and the reason I seconded this, is I actually asked, I spoke with staff this morning, and my recommendation was that you remove the item until next month for a simple reason. I have no verification that these environmental groups have signed this. There are no letters in my staff report. I have no signatories. I have a gentleman, which I guess it's fortunate he called in and spoke about it this morning. I don't know who that person is. I've never met him. I don't know that he represents these other environmental groups. So in my opinion, until I see those letters signed that they've agreed to this, I don't know that it's happened. And I can't vote on something I haven't actually seen the documentation on. And so it's not that I disagree with what we're doing here today, or probably going to do here. I am going to vote no on it because I haven't received the information that I need. This is not a time-sensitive issue. I spoke to staff this morning about it. I said, just move it to next month, resolve these issues, and then I think you'll have a fairly straightforward vote on it. But that's not going to happen here today. So these environmental groups may have signed it. Staff should have provided that to us, and they didn't. So as far as I know, it's only us looking at it today, even though we had the speaker say that. I haven't seen any documentation that those negotiations have taken place and been agreed to. So that's why I seconded it, and I'll be voting yes on this motion, but I don't support moving forward with this until all of that documentation has been provided to the board. Thanks.
Thank you. Ben, do you know?
If it would be helpful, Chair, I actually have them in my email, and I can forward the signed agreement to the entire board. And then we would only need to print them out and have them available downstairs as well at the same time.
Why weren't they provided to us ahead of time? I mean, now you have another document that was not provided to the public before this. How can you add on to the staff report at the middle of the meeting?
But I don't think it's a different document. It's, the
What
document.
has been provided has been presented to the public.
Well, the agreement itself, I mean, I would say the proposed language for stipulation and for the
Well, the
amendment is already
signatures have not
provided.
been provided to us. We don't know. All of a sudden, we hear a caller come in and say it's done. Now the staff is saying it's done. Why was it not provided to the board ahead of time? So we could have a chance to go over and look at it. I've got a gentleman that I don't know who he is, says he represents all these different agencies. I don't know if that's true or not. And so why wouldn't that have been provided to us? When was it signed? Like over the weekend? And if that's the case, then it wasn't done in time to make the agenda. So there are a lot of questions around it. I mean, I like I said, I support what we're trying to accomplish here. I just think the process that we're in is flawed, and we could wait a month to vote on this, and it's not going to change anything.
All right.
But that's my concern.
Thank you. Mr. Rubin?
Just as a standard practice, we don't normally send out signed agreements. They're often unsigned, and so that's the practice of the agency. And we received these signatures, I want to say, 2 to 3 weeks ago. We honestly thought that since we represented as staff in the report that we had fully signed documents, that attaching them wasn't necessary. But if that's the practice that the board would like to go to, I don't think that's a problem at all for staff or for legal.
All right, we'll make that.
Well, I think on a document that was as controversial and as difficult to develop as this settlement agreement was, I think it does warrant sending that information. You could have sent it as a closed session document, right? I mean, that could have been attorney-client privilege because it hasn't been signed yet by us. So it's still a contract. So we could have gotten that ahead of time.
Well, Director Miller, I think you may, I don't know, if you may be confusing the two documents. The original signed a settlement, containing all that, the original language, everything you've looked at was signed in 2016. But
And if you're going to change that, but some signatories have to be there.
But the only thing that we are changing is very narrow in scope, so it's not.
And it affects 12 environmental groups. It affects 12 environmental groups that I haven't seen anything that they've agreed to this.
Well, I think, but I want to address the complexity is not as complex as you stated as to when you were referring to the entire settlement agreement.
Anytime you change an agreement, you make an amendment to an agreement like this that was very controversial when it happened. I think the public wants to see that. I'm not saying that this amendments that
this particular amendment, I don't think is controversial at all, given that all the other parties are not.
I'm just saying, when you change this, there are people that are not going to be happy about it, and they're going to want to know what happened exactly.
And
So
that
that's
is
my
what
point,
public
is
comment
that
is
you
all about,
provide it
isn't
ahead of
it?
time. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
I've said what I've said.
Thank you. Director Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And briefly, the item itself makes a lot of sense, and I had an opportunity to be briefed about it by Samuel and Valerie and Ben, and I agree with, I think, everybody here that standing alone, this is probably very much in the interest of the agency and a good thing for all of the parties. The problem, of course, is, as identified, I believe, accurately by Supervisor Bartlett, that there are other parties, and this document, as it hits us on the consent calendar of all things, really raises the question, what is the true intent of this agency? I take Samuel and staff's assurances that it's not going to make any changes. I take those as entirely accurate. But just this morning, well, it came yesterday, but we all saw it at 7 this morning, OCTA, a major player, a number of us serve on that board as well, a major player in Orange County transportation process, raises questions that we unnecessarily, by putting forward this document on a consent calendar with all of the now superseded stuff in it, raised eyebrows. And so I think Supervisor Bartlett is on the right path, since it isn't time sensitive, to step back and say, is there a way to answer the questions of those agencies and business interests. I know we've had some input, my office at least has, from the Mission Viejo company for clarification. The legal question I have, and maybe Mr. Rubin has done the research, but while it is true this agreement only affects a certain area of the global document, I don't know that you can amend the whole document without getting all of the signatories, even if they aren't party to that or have no new obligations to that specific section that's being changed. Maybe a standalone agreement is the better way to go. Maybe that's a whole bunch of lawyers dancing on the head of a pin, and Mr. Rubin says, oh, of course it can be done. But I'll be honest, I've never seen a contract with multiple parties where you just unilaterally, two of them get together and say, this little section we're going to change. We don't believe it affects anybody else, but maybe it does. Maybe their lawyers see it differently than ours do. I think we need to take a step back for a month. We need to say this is a good deal for the agency. How do we get there without setting off warning bells in others' minds and without what I see as a genuine legal issue about less than all of the parties amending an entire document. So I'd urge a step back for a month, recognizing this is a good deal for the agency. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rubin?
On the ability to amend without all signatories, the agreement actually specifically provides for that authorization. So that was contemplated as part of the agreement itself.
I have it in front of me. Which section, please?
One moment, let me pull up the agreement.
8.12.
Correct. It's 8.12 amendments. Except as expressly provided in this agreement may be amended only pursuant to a written agreement signed by all of the parties that are governed by or have obligations under the sections of the agreement that are subject to such amendment. So because the Attorney Generals have confirmed with us that they have no obligations, and because our analysis and the environmental group's analysis is that they have no obligations, we were able to proceed this way. They've already confirmed that they will sign a stipulation, a modified judgment.
Right.
So that's we've gotten buy-off from the Attorney General, from the environmental groups, and from legal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, but you have other organizations out there asserting interests and
But they're not parties to the
objecting to this.
lawsuit.
So, okay.
But Director Wagner, the problem is they're not parties to the interest.
But they're parties. There are parties to the agreement that are raising questions here, and they may not agree.
The only one that's raising a question. I apologize.
Look,
The only one that's
as Mr. Miller said, I've said what I've said, and I'm going to ask staff to take another look. I'm going to vote with Supervisor Bartlett to have staff take another look at this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I do want to make a note that OCTA is not a party to this lawsuit. So that's the only governmental agency that seemed to have raised an issue. Otherwise, the environmental groups, as Mr. Silver has always been their representative, called in today, as well as their signatories have agreed. And the AG's office have already said they're not under any obligation. So I do want to clarify that. Moving on to Director Murphy. Thank you so much for waiting.
No worries. The discussion has been really positive, I think. And I think what it really points to is I'm very confident that we're within legal bounds, and it's a good thing for this agency. I'm very confident as well there wasn't any intent of lack of transparency. But even within the staff report, it references the 24191, which this agency can't do on its own. And I think OCTA's request is simply to be privy to as these things move forward rather than reading it third hand. That's how partnerships work. And if there is no issue related to a delay, a short delay for a month, or I'd even be willing to do an emergency session if it is time critical, and I haven't heard that it is so far. I think doing the additional work that some of my colleagues have requested and confirmation, as well as simply giving a moment for some intercommunication with some of these other entities is the prudent way to go. I mean, we have a lot of needs moving forward that we're going to require partnerships, and good partnerships rely on information, and I think this is a simple one to do from my estimation. And unless I hear that something's going to be irreparably harmed by delaying it, I don't see any downside to doing it and making sure that all the information is out to the interested parties. And I would make just a subtle request, and that is, and everybody's process is different on how they manage their calendars, but I got to be honest, if I see a calendar item reminding me that I'm supposed to be at a meeting at 9:30, I'm not going to look at it for additional information. So maybe that's my shortcoming, but I didn't see the items in the from public comment standpoint until I just heard about it and looked at it on my phone. And while it's brief today, some other days. So maybe just separate. I know some folks like to be reminded in the morning when they wake up that they have to come to the meeting, but for me, if I didn't have it on the calendar already, I probably wouldn't make it anyway. So if we could do just something that way, or put a flag in it, urgent new information or something, so that it doesn't look like the 3 reminders I've received over the last 10 days about this meeting, that would help me out too.
Thank you. Director Chafee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we all suffer from the fact that these things take a long time, and this goes back in the past. And the future board members either take the credit or blame for what we've done today. So I'd like to kind of get a little bit of the history more of this thing. I have one specific question. It talks about the proceeds from this. It talks about the sale of mitigation rights. I didn't know what happened to the proceeds. Does that go back into a mitigation bank for future mitigation uses, or is that something that comes into our budget? I didn't find it where the proceeds were going to go.
Thank you, Supervisor Chafee. This is Valerie McFall. Any expenditure of the $28 million, if TCA were to sell those as credits, those funds would come back to TCA into our general account. It would not go back into the conservation fund. We are only committed to $28 million. And once we spend that money, anything that we get in return from people purchasing those credits would come back to the agency, our account.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. And there's some mention of a mitigation bank that may be for some future education. I think that's an interesting idea. I don't know that we've created one or not, or whether we could contribute to that. I'd like to know a little bit about the history of the San Mateo Creek area. The fund seems to be primarily directed for that purpose. Have we actually done any mitigation in that area? Are there any plans to do that? That seems to be the intended project list of things to do with the money.
We have not performed any mitigation in the San Mateo Creek watershed. The original agreement limited the agency to spending the dollars only in San Mateo Creek watershed. And while that is a primary objective of the agencies, if there is not any available lands within that watershed, then the agency, working with our environmental coalition, can look to other areas outside that watershed and spend the money towards those other areas. But San Mateo Creek watershed is known as one of the last pristine watersheds in Southern California, and that's why it was originally highlighted in the original settlement agreement for these funds. But again, with this amendment, it does allow us to look at areas outside the San Mateo Creek watershed if that is the goal or agreement with the environmental groups and the TCA board.
Yeah, so it's still possible to do projects within that watershed area should any become available. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that is correct.
And any projects that come out of this funding or proposed for, will that come back to the board for approval?
Yes. Once we identify a project, whether it be acquisition or restoration, and the environmental groups agree with that, we would bring that back to the Foothill Eastern Board, and it would be up to the Foothill Eastern Board to approve that recommendation and expenditure of funds. It is solely up to the Foothill Eastern Board to agree with that and spend those dollars.
I appreciate staff briefing me in advance. I apologize for not having read the documents when that happened. I noticed that one of the red line document that referred to attachments, for example, the avoidance area, that seemed to be missing, at least from the copy that I had. So if we're going to be providing other documents, I'd like to have that so I can understand for my own purposes what we're talking about in this particular area. I'm from the North County, so I don't really know much about this area, and I'd like to learn. And I understand, at least I'm assuming from legal counsel, that there's no harm in voting on this same agreement as it's being presented. Were to be postponed for one into the next month. Is that correct? I asked legal counsel. Is there any harm if we don't try to change the document?
The environmental groups have requested that we sign this as soon as possible for reasons that are specific to them.
Would as soon as possible include a continuance to our next meeting?
In their mind, no. If that would be too late for them.
Why would that be so? I mean, there are no projects proposed yet.
It has to deal with their litigation strategy in the ongoing litigation that I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about publicly.
That's strange. Okay. All right. I noted also in the agreement that there's been a lot of other expenses beside the 28 million, including it looked like 7.1 million paid to the group for their legal fees and costs. So it's been expensive getting to this point. All right. I don't understand why we couldn't give more time on this. I think it's a good idea. When I read it, I like the flexibility. But I'm a little taken aback that it has to have such a short time fuse, unless the environmental groups have conditioned their consent in their letters. Then I don't understand why we couldn't at least give it one meeting ahead a chance to give everyone a little more comfort with what's going on here. So I support the proposed amendment, but also support the continuance. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. CO Johnson?
I can wait till after Director.
Okay, all right. Actually, it's Director Kelly, who has patiently waited.
Thank you. It has been an interesting discussion for sure. I do not have any problem with moving ahead with this right away, and especially hearing that the environmental groups would like it dealt with as soon as possible. I would not want to jeopardize what we have in front of us. This is a really good thing for the TCA. More importantly, it's good, or just as importantly, it's good for the region. And it does support the strategic plan that we are all a part of and adopted, and it just recently approved. It provides flexibility, and I want to ask our staff, I know you're always good about reaching out to members. Did you reach out and offer to provide any clarification or answers to directors ahead of time?
Yes, Director Kelly.
Okay.
We did our usual process of reaching out to all the board members.
Okay, you always do, and so it seems like some of these questions could have been addressed before the meeting. I do understand everyone's busy schedule, but I'm a little bit concerned about Director Miller's almost an implication that the staff is not honest in the staff report. I mean, wanting to see the signed letters, that to me seemed kind of unusual. It's in the staff report. There would be no reason for them to make that up. So anyway, I would like to see this, I would be very comfortable moving this forward today, as has been requested. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Director Beal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard a little bit of concern and question about the approval process. I think staff has been pretty clear in responding to those questions. And I would point out for the benefit of all directors that it was expressly included in our staff report at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3, how all the required signatures have already been obtained, and those that are not included, meaning parties to the original settlement agreement, they've already confirmed in writing that their signatures are not required. The original settlement agreement, that was a highly complex, controversial agreement. It took years to get there. What's before us today is a proposed amendment to one particular section. It's short, it's sweet, and every bit of it is beneficial to our agency. And it's already been fully executed by the other parties that are required for that amendment, except us. Given that, I don't think there's any need to delay, and I would like to make a substitute motion to approve the staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, a substitute motion to adopt staff recommendation and seconded by Director Kelly. Director Beal, that concludes your comments?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And then I have Director Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up on Director Kelly's comments. I did not mean to imply that something was underhanded going on here. My implication was if you're going to amend a settlement agreement that is as important as this one is to our agency, we should have those documents in front of us to see what they signed off on. I'm looking at the staff report right now, and I read this multiple times, and I don't see where it says everything's been signed off on. All I read is that the Attorney General says that the Native American Heritage Commission and State Parks and Recreation Commission are not parties, so they don't have to sign. I looked at the rest of this. I'm looking at it right now, and I don't see where it says the other parties have already signed it. And that was my concern. It was not my intent to imply that in any way. If it came off that way, I didn't mean it. For something as important as this, I'd like to see those documents signed, especially if they've already been signed. Why not share that with the board? That was my point. Thanks.
Top of page 3, first full paragraph of the staff report.
Thank you. And I think the sentence that Director Beal was specifically referring to is further, all of the SSOC parties have already executed the First Amendment to the State Route 241 Foothill South and Tesora Extension Settlement Agreement. And that's what this agreement is. So hopefully that clarified. And I think, Director Miller makes a really good point that we should look at our internal policy and make that change, that in the future we do provide that information so we avoid this problem in the future. So thank you for that suggestion, Director Miller. Director Wagner, your hand was up. I'm sorry, I forgot.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped Director Taylor. Sorry about that. You're all good, Director Wagner?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Taylor, sorry.
Thank you, and thank you for the conversation about this. I see this, delaying this could really harm, I think, the relationships that we have going forward with the environmental groups. I think that by saying we're delaying it, basically it opens the whole negotiation all over again in their eyes, is the way I would interpret it. And I think that this is an agreement that what the amendment is very beneficial to us and to them, and obviously they've signed on completely. Now, I would say that we should go forward with this agreement today, and however, if we want to go back and address further amendments to this document, then we do that in the future if it's legally sound. But my thinking is that if we don't do this now, we're really going to send out a message that it's going to harm our relationship. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Director Taylor. I don't see any more hands raised, and I better scan the room more. And I would agree with Director Taylor's comment. I'm seeing this as a very narrow focus, and I don't want to, it's very focused in terms of the habitat, which we all agree is a good idea for the mitigation bank. We all like the idea. So for that reason, I support the motion as it stands right now. However, I think that it's, for some of the issues that Director Bartlett has raised, as well as the letter received by OCTA, which I stress is not a party to this litigation. But we have heard from our legal counsel that it can possibly open a can of worms, that we don't want to walk down that road. However, I want all the directors to think about it. Do you want to reopen this litigation and the settlement agreement, given how complex and difficult it was to reach to this point? If that is something that you want to do, that it is very important to you, that we do go back and reopen this discussion and make all those amendments and changes that have been suggested, that is what you're thinking, then I welcome you to email me, and I'd be happy to put it on the agenda for a closed session discussion on those legal implications, which we can't possibly discuss. But if those are amending the rest of the settlement agreement is important to you, and I think we need that closed session to understand the consequences of that action. But as this particular habitat section, it doesn't have those consequences, and the environmental groups, the plaintiffs in this case, agree to those changes. I think we should just stay to that narrow focus, and I will support that motion today. But if that is something you're thinking about, think about it, email me. I'd be happy to put it on closed session. Yes, Director Bartlett?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So it's not renegotiating the agreement. It's basically updating the agreement, not just with regard to the mitigation credits and the environmental groups, but it has to do with the intent of the board. And it's not renegotiating anything with the environmental groups. It's just updating the agreement to reflect the actions of the board, and to clarify those areas that are inconsistent with our process regarding the Oso Bridge project, which is already open. And when you talk about the master plan of arterial highways and other things that need to get updated, the 3 projects that we now have in place, the fact that we've finished the South Orange County traffic relief work, those things need to get updated in an amended and kind of restated agreement. So it's not a matter of taking those items and renegotiating anything with the environmental group. It's a matter of, look, we need to clarify the document while we're doing these other changes. Let's update the document to reflect the actions of the board. It's not negotiating. There's no negotiating. It's a matter of clarifying the document and restating what is now appropriate based on board actions relative to projects and the master plan of arterial highways, et cetera. So it's not a negotiating process. It's updating it to reflect the board's actions that have already been taken place. Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't want to belabor this issue, and I'm watching the time, but I would say that anytime you update and make any changes to settlement, it opens it up for all parties to renegotiate, reinsert. It's not just simply going back to redline, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Rubin. I see nodding of head. So with that, we have a substitute motion to vote on to approve this matter. So we will first take on the substitute motion for a vote. Madam Clerk?
Chair Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller?
I'll be a no vote, not because I don't agree with the mitigation bank, I do, but because of the reasons I stated earlier.
Director Bartlett?
No.
Director Beal?
Aye.
Director Chafee?
I'm abstaining. Thank you.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Kahn?
Yes.
Director Lombard?
Aye.
Director Murphy?
No, for the reasons stated in terms of the clarity and the additional information requested. Do agree with the amendment itself and don't want to harm it, but believe we're moving forward without the clarity necessary for me to support it.
Director Trevor O'Neill,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigts. You may be on mute. Director Wagner,
No.
Director Voigts,
This is Director Voigt. I'm stating for the reasons being that I think the request was for more information. I think that postponing it for a time where the information can be dissolved, everybody can be feeling good about that. I think that we agree that it should be the money that is set aside for the creek and the river, I think is a good thing. But I think that there are questions being asked. So I'm abstaining.
Madam Chair, noting the absence of the abstention from Director Chafee and Director Voigts, the item passes 8-4.
Thank you. Moving on to, let me get my notes correct now. Thank you.
Madam Chair, it's Director Miller.
Yes, Director Miller.
Hey, just real quickly, I apologize. I'm actually traveling today and I have to get off the call at this point, but thank you for taking time to listen to my comments.
Thank you, Director Miller, for staying on as long as you can. And thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful consideration. I would just ask that staff take into consideration the comments that were raised today so we can do better in the future. And if there are needs for internal policy changes, please bring it to our attention, all right? Moving on now to the board business. We have 2 presentation items today. And we will first begin with the business item we have. Prior to that, any public comments on item number 12?
There are no live public commenters.
Okay, thank you. So first
Madam
business
Chair?
item. Yes.
I'm
sorry,
So
Director
item number 12 on the agenda. Again, I will be not participating in this item due to the Levine Act, so I'll step out of the room. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Sorry, I didn't look up. With that, yes, Mr. Murphy.
Madam Chair, apologies, Wagner. I'm also going to have some Levine Act issues and some timing issues, so I'm just going to step out of the rest of the meeting at this point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Wagner. Director Murphy.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, did we take an action on 11 for Foothill Eastern?
We just did.
No, we took an action on item 9. Did we? I don't remember.
Oh, you're
Madam
right.
Clerk, did we?
Madam 11. We did. You're right.
Just for.
Thank you.
No worries.
And,
I like to follow along the agenda, so,
oh, wait,
you know.
I thought we
did.
did. We did. We
Madam-
did all the consent items plus 11, and then we went back to item number 9.
We did it differently than we did with San Juan then. Because
Yes.
San Juan, we voted on it separately.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yes.
okay.
Because I know we were going to have discussion, so I left 9.
I was a yes either way, so it didn't matter.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I clarify?
Yes.
So, Director Murphy, what happened there was we voted separately on the consent I'm sorry, Foothill Eastern voted separately on the consent calendar, and then Foothill Eastern separately voted on 11, and then I must have missed it. That's okay. I noticed that too, but that's why I noticed it. So anyway, yes, they were separate votes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you for keeping me honest. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Chesney on item 12 and ask him to speak really quickly.
Thank you, Chair Wong. Mike Chesney, Interim Chief Engineer. This item was presented to and recommended for board approval by the Joint Capital Programs and Projects Committee on March 23rd, 2022. However, staff would like to provide additional clarification for the Board of Directors based on the direction and discussion provided by the committee. First of all, this procurement is required to adhere to the Minnie-Brooks Act, which requires these professional services be selected based on qualifications. We have added this clarification to the board agenda, staff report, and the associated procurement summary report. Additionally, classification rate proposals were submitted in a sealed envelope and were not included as part of the evaluation process. After final rankings, the top qualified contractors' rates were opened and subsequent classification rate negotiations were conducted and successfully completed. The top ranked contractors' rates after negotiations were found to be fair and reasonable and passed the agency's audit procedures. With that, Ms. Juliet Su, Director of Design and Construction, will present the item.
Good morning, Chair Huang and members of the boards. I'm Juliet Su, Director of Design and Construction for the agencies. The item before you is the selection of the Program Management and Specialty Support Services contract for the Engineering Department. This item was brought before the Joint Capital Programs and Projects Committee on March 23rd, and the committee recommended approval of the item by the boards of directors. Next slide. Shown here is the Engineering Department staff organization chart. In the blue boxes on the top left side are TCA's engineering staff. TCA employs a small in-house staff of 3 full-time engineers. Shown in the gray boxes on the right side, TCA utilizes on-call bench contractors and individual contracts to prepare the preliminary engineering, final design, and construction management for the capital improvement projects. In order to manage this work, the engineering department engages a program management team shown in the yellow boxes on the left. The team acts as an extension of staff to assist in the oversight of the capital improvement project delivery and perform technical reviews of the engineering documents. In addition, the program management team performs ongoing department day-to-day activities and provides other technical support as needed. This model has 2 advantages. First, it gives our department the flexibility to increase or decrease staffing based on the changing workload. And second, it gives TCA direct access to a broad range of expertise. Staff recently conducted a reprocurement of these services that I will step through in this presentation. Next slide. This slide shows the board's key strategic initiatives for the engineering department's fiscal year 23 plan. In alignment with the board's adopted strategic plan, the engineering staff will move forward with these activities assisted by the program management team. Next slide. On the next 3 slides, I will walk you through the scope of work for the program management contract. For capital improvement projects, the scope includes assisting staff with conceptual engineering and feasibility analysis during the project planning phase, oversight of projects and technical review of engineering documents, including coordination with Caltrans, and construction management for TCA projects, including constructability reviews and advising on challenging construction issues. Next slide. For ongoing day-to-day engineering core activities, the team provides support for the items shown here, including coordination with Caltrans, responding to dig alerts for utilities owned by TCA, and other engineering support items as noted on this slide. Next slide. A request for proposals was released to the industry on October 26th. 3 proposals were received and interviews were conducted with all 3 teams. Next slide. In alignment with the CAPS manual, and evaluations were performed for these professional services. The teams were evaluated on the evaluation criteria shown here. Qualifications such as reliability, quality, and staffing and experience were evaluated for all the teams. Next slide. Proposal evaluations and interviews were conducted by a 4-person committee consisting of agency staff and 1 representative from Caltrans District 12. Based upon the independent evaluations of the proposals and interviews, the evaluators unanimously selected Quarter Management Group as the team that provided the most comprehensive experience, staffing, and work plan. Next slide. The Quarter Management Group demonstrated a deeper bench of local and nationwide resources, key staff with stronger experience working with Caltrans and strong District 12 relationships, extensive knowledge of the agency's engineering and tolling requirements and its capital projects, and strong expertise to support the agency's adopted strategic plan for emerging mobility solutions. Next slide. At this time, the item before the boards is the selection of the contractor. The annual cost for the contract is being set as part of the annual budgeting process, and the board will authorize the contract's expenditures through the approval of the budget. For San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor agencies, the recommendations are as follows. Number 1, approve the selection of the Corridor Management Group as the contractor to provide program management and specialty support services. Number 2, authorize the CEO to enter into a contract with Corridor Management Group for 5 years, plus up to an additional 5 optional years in one extension or multiple extensions of shorter duration. And number 3, authorize the CEO to award and amend task orders with Corridor Management Group in an aggregate amount not to exceed the respective fiscal year's annual budget for program management and specialty support services as adopted by the Board of Directors. Next slide. The same recommendations are proposed for the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor agencies. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Do we have any directors with any questions? Okay, I don't see any questions. Hands raised, I will entertain a motion.
Trish Kelly moves on behalf of San Joaquin Hills.
All right, moved by Director Kelly for San Joaquin Hills. Any second?
Connors will second.
Okay, second by Director Connors. I'll make the motion for Foothill Eastern to make it easier. Can I have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
And
John
second
Taylor.
by Director Taylor. All right, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Chair Will O'Neill,
Aye.
Vice Chair Heft,
Aye.
Director Connors,
Aye.
Director Hurt,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Kahn,
Yes.
Director Minigar, Director Penaloza, Director Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Vic-Sorick,
Aye.
Director Minigar, Director Penaloza. Madam Chair, noting the recusal of Director Bartlett and Director Wagner, and noting the absence of Director Minigar and Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
Moving on to Foothill.
Chair
Madam
Wong?
Chair, just got voice from the court. Was that an Eastern item?
No, we're voting
Foothill
on Eastern
Eastern?
now.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Chair Wong?
Yes.
I'll make a motion for approval.
It's been moved and seconded, so we're taking roll call. Votes.
Vice Chair Miller? Director Beal?
Aye.
Director Chafee?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Kahn?
Yes.
Director Lombard?
Aye, and I note that Director Minigar put something in the chat saying he had to leave the meeting.
Director Murphy?
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill?
Aye.
Director Penaloza?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Yes.
Director Voights?
Yes.
Madam Chair, noting the recusal of Director Bartlett and Director Wagner, the item passes unanimously.
Okay, great. All right, that will take us to item number 13, Customer Service Center Operations Contracts Amendments. Do we have any live public commenters for this item?
There are no live public commenters.
Thank you, and Director Bartlett has now joined us for this item. With this last items regarding our customer service operations and our current contractor, I will return that over to Mr. Leyva.
Thank you, Chair Wong. Good morning, honorable directors and board members. My name is Alex Leyva, your Director of Customer Service. The item before you is a request to execute a 3-year extension option of the Customer Service Center Operations Contract, and this item was unanimously recommended for approval at the March 23rd Joint Toll Operations Committee meeting. Next slide, please. As noted in your staff report, Faneuil's public sector assets were in the final stages of an acquisition by T-Tech Government Solutions, LLC. Effective April 1st, the acquisition was complete. Staff has reviewed this acquisition and discussed it with senior management at T-Tech, has determined there should be no adverse effects on TCA operations, as we are working with the same staff from frontline employees to senior leadership. A little background on T-Tech. They are headquartered in Englewood, Colorado. They have over 40 years' experience delivering outsourced customer care and back office operations, and currently employ more than 65,000 employees globally. Next slide, please. Our contractor is responsible for all customer service-related activities. Some of these activities include payment processing for all payments received through the mail, account management for customers wishing to add or remove vehicles and make any changes to their account, transponder fulfillment and inventory management, call center staffing, financial reporting and reconciliation, and the overall staffing life cycle, including recruitment, hiring, scheduling, and termination. Next slide, please. The contractor staff is based at our primary customer service center here in Irvine, a secondary center in Sacramento, and they have a large remote workforce. Our contract is focused on cost-effective attainment of TCA's prescribed performance levels and requires them to consistently right-size their labor force. The work-from-home option has played a key role in attracting and retaining frontline employees. Currently, that workforce consists of approximately 179 employees, but can fluctuate seasonally to as high as 220 during the summer months. This contract also incorporates a performance-based scorecard that incentivizes good performance and disincentivizes poor performance. So there is some risk and some reward based on their performance across 16 KPIs. 3 examples of customer-facing KPIs are call wait time, resolution of customer inquiries, and customer satisfaction. The scores you see here are accumulated scores since the inception of the Customer Satisfaction Survey Program in 2019. We have received over 241,000 surveys, and our contractor has achieved an overall satisfaction score of 4.5 out of 5 and a net promoter score of 70. Next slide, please. The Customer Service Center Operations contract was awarded in March of 2017, and the current base term expires June 30th, 2022. They currently service the agency's more than 2.1 million customers, and since they began managing the call center, they have handled more than 4.7 million calls. They've also partnered with TCA staff to implement our Resolutions Plus program to increase revenue collection on aged accounts, and has collected over $500,000 since January of 2021. Exercising this 3-year extension option will ensure we have a contractor in place that manages seasoned employees with institutional knowledge of TCA's processes and procedures. They have reliably delivered an A rating in customer satisfaction, which is consistent with TCA's strategic plan. Next slide. The recommendation for the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency is to authorize the CEO to execute an amendment to exercise a 3-year extension option for the contract with T-Tech Government Solutions. Extending the term to June 30th, 2025, and increasing the contract value in a not-to-exceed amount of $11,910,000. Second, to authorize the CEO to execute amendments as needed up to 10% for the contract in an amount not to exceed $1,191,000. And lastly, to authorize the CEO to reallocate aggregate not to exceed costs for the contract as determined annually based on reasonable assumptions and methodology. Next slide. For the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency, the recommendation is the same with a not to exceed amount of $17,865,000 and a contingency of $1,786,500. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Leyva. Do we have any directors with any questions? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion from both boards.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion for Foothill.
All right, I will second for Foothill. Any motions from the San Joaquin side?
So moved by.
Connors, I'll move for San Joaquin.
All right, second.
All right, Director Connors, and seconded by Chair O'Neill for San Joaquin. Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Chair Will O'Neill.
Aye.
Vice Chair Heft. Director Bartlett.
Yes.
Director Connors.
Yes.
Director Hurt.
Yes.
Director Kelly. Director Khan.
Yes.
Director Minigar. Director Penaloza.
Yes.
Director Reynolds.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Vicsoric.
Aye.
Vice Chair Heft. Director Minigar? Madam Chair, noting the absence of Vice Chair Heft, Director Minigar, and the recusal of Director Wagner, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you. And moving on to Foothill Eastern?
Chair Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller? Director Bartlett?
Yes.
Director Beal?
Aye.
Director Chafee?
Aye.
Director Kelly? Director Kahn?
Yes.
Director Lombard?
Aye.
Director Murphy?
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill?
Aye.
Director Penaloza?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Aye.
Director Voights?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller? Director Kelly? Madam Chair, noting the absence of Vice Chair Miller and Director Kelly and the recusal of Director Wagner, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you, directors. CEO Johnson, do you have a report today?
Very briefly,
All right.
Madam Chair, my apologies, I'm not on my notes page. So just as a reminder to board members, your first budget workshop is in 2 weeks. We have completed the detailed committee reviews, looking at all the detailed items in the various respective functional areas of the agency and gotten buy-off from those committees. So please, if you can make sure you have your budget workshop on your calendars, your participation and feedback is critical to us moving forward with your adopted budget. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. For chair reports and new businesses, Chair O'Neill, do you have anything? Okay, nothing from me. So with that, we will adjourn to our next scheduled meeting that will be held on May 12th at 9:30 a.m. Without the meeting is now adjourned at 11:01.
Thank you.